My name is Dan Madden. I'm MD5, the National Security Technology Accelerator's Regional Director for the Mid-Atlantic region. MD5 is part of the Department of Defense. We partner with research universities and the venture community to solve emergent national security challenges. We have been in New York for a while now. We were actually born in New York about 2 years ago out of a summer study program at NYU. I'm hosted up at Columbia University. Columbia University is our host tonight. We're hosted by Columbia Entrepreneurship and the Columbia Startup Lab, so I want to thank them for having us. The kinds of challenges that we're facing as a country are changing very quickly, and we don't think that the next great product, the next great innovation that's going to help our country be safer is going to be coming out of the same contractors that we've been working with for the last 50 years. We don't think that the great ideas are going to come out of the Pentagon. We think that they're going to come out of collaboration between the solvers, the innovators, the technologists, the entrepreneurs that are inventing the future in the commercial world already, and their collaboration with the end users, the war fighters, the first responders who are in the most pressing need of their solutions. The kinds of challenges that MD5 helps to address can range from the narrow yet acute, like how do you go about protecting a soldier who's downrange in Syria from an explosive device being carried by a commercial drone, to how do you go about securing our critical infrastructure against state cyber intrusion from a Russia or a China. We see a lot of the most promising solutions coming from the same commercial technology areas that many of you are going to be excited about: AI, machine learning, autonomy, life sciences. But we do recognize that entering into the defense marketplace can be challenging. It can be daunting. We're here to help lower the barriers to entry. We have a variety of programs, a lot of them focused on enabling greater collaboration between the end users, customers, and the innovators in the private sector. We also have an acceleration portfolio, but I'll leave that to Greg, our acceleration portfolio director, to address. I want to introduce Jason Cahill, who is going to be our moderator tonight. Take it away, Jason.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So we're going to quickly go through little 2-minute background intros just so you get a sense of who we are. Before we even go that far, I just want to get a kind of poll and sense, because we can steer the conversation in a number of different ways. How many of you are just high-level familiar with what an SBIR is? Okay, good. So I don't have to educate anyone on that. What was the other question? Who's considering one? Okay, so a number. Who's an investor? All right. You can raise your hand all the way up. It's a good thing. I'm an investor too. Okay, cool. So by way of background, my name's Jason Cahill. I spent 7 years active duty Army, kind of pre and post 9/11, split half and half, 97 to 04. So I lived it firsthand what innovation can look like. As I was talking in the room earlier, one of the earlier fun systems we played with was a communication system that was meant to thwart IEDs, but by turning the system on, it rendered the communications offline. So you could either talk on a radio to call in an attack via aircraft, or you would get blown up by an IED. So difficult choice we had to make. After leaving the military, I was a consultant in the DoD-related space. Hated it because I like to build, I like to do. And as we'll talk about later on, there's a culture of one of the challenges in going into the DoD space is that you end up not really building a COTS product, but looking at sort of consulting services. So you're more of a research organization solving specific problems, but not sort of mass producing a hardware software product. So I left that, started my own company, sold my company, and now invest in companies. So I have kind of a perspective of the investor, the active duty, the consultant, so I've kind of spanned that.
All right, my name is Colonel Greg Coleman with MD5. I'm the Acceleration Portfolio Manager. And so just by way of kind of helping people kind of understand what MD5 is, because not a lot of people do. So Dan touched on it briefly. Essentially, if you start up here with the Secretary of Defense, then you have the Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering. We work for him. and we're a program office within DoD. Technically, we're in the Pentagon, but we actually keep our office is actually in Crystal City, so that we can very easily come and go and just meet with whoever we want to meet. So a little bit about me. So my background, I have like this weird hybrid background that you tend to not see in an Air Force colonel, right? So I'm one part Air Force operator. I spent the first part of my career on active duty, got out, went into the National Guard. So I spent, so 23 years in total as a pilot. Okay, so that's one part of my career. In my civilian career, I'm actually a tech entrepreneur. So I have as a founder of or am still the founder of a tech company that's still going, growing, profitable. Actually went through Techstars as a founder a number of years ago. And so I bring this interesting perspective from both a warfighter perspective, but also from an entrepreneurial perspective. So two types of operator, right? So that helps inform how I do it. But the funny thing about it is now I'm managing an SBIR process for MD5 and I'm not a contracting officer. So I guess it's kind of good is you have somebody who's not a contracting officer managing the process. My goal is just to stay out of jail and to try to go push as hard as I can, and still stay out of handcuffs. But big picture, what we're really trying to do is we are trying to figure out how to help the Defense Department more effectively work with early stage companies because as early stage companies, we don't have the time, we don't have the resources to play the standard DoD game. By the time a proposal kind of gets through the process, we've already gone through 2 or 3 iterations of our product, and the specs that we were talking about back before are not even relevant. Right? So we're trying to figure out how to accelerate that. I'll talk a little bit more about kind of what we're doing specifically as it relates to SBIR, but I just want to kind of give you that quick background.
My name is Kirk Burton. I spent the first 23 years, my first career as an active duty Army officer. When I left the service in 2005, I started working for a mid-sized R&D company, developing solutions for DoD clients. Did that for about 6 years and kind of got tired of that roller coaster. So I started my own company, did consulting for DARPA for some universities around innovation systems. I've also been a director of engineering at an incubator down in Tampa, Florida area. Most recently, I won't go through the whole thing, but most recently I worked for DoD as an analyst in the DoD SBIR office. That ended about a month ago, and I took over a new project. So I am here to talk about DoD, but I do not represent DoD. I probably should make that disclaimer. But I've been involved probably for about 13 years with startups and kind of the innovation ecosystem in support of national security problems.
Hi, my name's Anita D'Amico, and I'm the CEO of a small business, a startup, called Code DX Incorporated. The DX stands for diagnosis, and we help diagnose vulnerabilities in your source code and in any kind of software. And our company started out with 2 SBIRs and BAAs. So I have also run an organization that was a cybersecurity organization that bid SBIRs, bid BAAs, and I've transitioned those technologies in a number of ways. And in the last 3 years, we started a new company, and we took the intellectual property out of the R&D company and brought it into the product company, and I run that company. And I still go back and I get R&D money to fund the development of new product capabilities. My background is completely different than everybody else's. I'm an experimental psychologist by training. And I've always worked in advanced technology. I've always worked in something that was on the cutting edge. I worked in the maritime industry, designing a new part of the Panama Canal. I worked in manned space. I worked in the beginnings of digital cartography, and then information warfare, and then cybersecurity. So that's kind of what I do. I'm a starter-upper. I'll pass the mic.
So I'm Warren Katz. I'm the managing director of the Air Force Accelerator, powered by Techstars up in Boston. Techstars is, I think you probably all have heard of Techstars, the network that helps entrepreneurs succeed, I think is the tagline these days. Background-wise, I'm an engineer by training. Worked for a defense contractor for a very short period of time after graduating college. Left, this was in 1990, started my own software company, completely funded by SBIRs, which enabled me never to raise any angel money or any venture capital money. It's one of those unusual stories that it was 100% funded by SBIRs. We commercialized. We did what the SBIR program is intended to do, and we came up with a commercial product line. I sold the company in 2006. At that time, we had transitioned to 85% of our revenue was just from commercial product sales of our products. We still had a little bit of contracting work left. Stayed on with the new owner for a little while, left and became an angel investor and a mentor for Techstars in the Boston ecosystem. Did that for about 5 years. Had a small stint as a president of one of my investments. They needed somebody who had some of the relevant experience. It was an AI company called Neurala, great company, still doing very well. And then the Air Force called Techstars and said, hey, we want you guys to run an accelerator for us. They called me immediately because there's very few people in the Techstars ecosystem that had that much experience with the contracts with the DoD. Helped them score that deal, and they asked me to run it, and I said yes, but for really only one reason, which is the promise of redesign of the SBIR program and the AFWERX MD5, the new open topics that you're probably all aware of. I was instrumental in helping craft some of the new mechanisms around that, which I'm very excited about. It's a way to get the DoD to stop this incessant labor contracting, R&D, never commercializing anything, sort of push them into a more of a VC-ish type model. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I'm happy about doing it.